The Cold War was an era of tension between the United States and the Soviet Union. Both superpowers were hungry for power and global influence. One event during the era was known as the space race. But how did it exactly happen? To find out, we must go back at the end of World War II. After the defeat of Nazi Germany and the US and the USSR took Germany's rocket engineers and missile technology like the famous V-2 rockets. The Soviets recruited Sergei Korolev to lead the Soviet space program, who was originally from Ukraine, while the United States recruited former Nazi engineer Werner von Braun. In 1955, Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev and U.S. President Dwight D. Eisenhower would announce that they would be launching space satellites into outer space. This marked the beginning of the space race. On October 4, 1957, the USSR would be the first one to launch the first satellite into low Earth orbit called Sputnik 1. Being 56 centimeters in diameter with 4 antennas and weighing about 86 kilograms, this piece of technology simply transmitted signals from orbit by changing the course of history. The idea of launching a space satellite was from Mikhail Tikhonov, who said that if we can launch a missile through space to its target, we could launch a satellite into orbit as well.
I remember the first time that I saw a Sputnik documentary, and for sure this was like a change, an important change in our special competition between the Russians and the Americans to get not to get to the moon, to get the power and the control over the space.
But Russia did not just send artificial satellites in their name. They also sent animals in space as test subjects, mainly canines. They were Laika, then Laika and Strelka, and eventually Rarok and Ugok. There were more other dogs sent into space, but these are the best known dogs in the space race era.
Sometimes it's sad to use animals for this purpose, especially when you are supposed to know to beat a disease or whatever, a medical treatments. But we have to do it. I mean, there's no other option. The same for space race. We need it. We didn't know if we were supposed to. We were able to go to space and come back alive. We didn't know, so we need to use another living thing. Another living thing should be like an animal. And the closer animal to human beings are dogs or monkeys. Dogs, they're famous, especially Laika was the first Russian dog. That's a typical biology experiment that I think there's no way, and there's no another way to try to prove that we can come back alive.
Formerly a stray dog in the streets of Moscow, Lakia became the first animal to orbit the planet and stood as a hero for the Soviet Union. Unfortunately, Lakia died from oxygen deprivation after 7 days in space. Belka and Strelka were sent to space on August 19 on 1960 and became the first creatures to go into orbit and return safely. This gave the Soviets the confidence that they would need to send a man into space. Less than a year later, Yuri Gagarin would be the first man to travel into space. Later, in February 22, 1966, two Russian dogs, Berok and Ogok, were launched into space, orbited planet Earth for 22 days, and returned safely. These two set the record for the longest duration space flights by dogs. Humans did not surpass the record until 1974. Things were going excellently for the USSR until one event occurred that would put them in second place, the moon landing. In 1969, the Soviet Union experienced a crushing defeat when the United States sent the first man to walk on the moon. However, some would doubt about the substance of America's greatest achievement. The orbiting of Sputnik and the Soviet space dogs played such a key role in the space race because they allowed humans to achieve what was thought to be science fiction and discover the unknown. The space race officially ended in 1975 with both superpowers working on the joint Apollo-Soyuz mission, which both commanders from both spacecrafts greeted with each other. Had it not been for the space race, the Soviet Union wouldn't be an advanced superpower of the 20th century, and the United States wouldn't be the technological advance in the field of science as it stands today.
Three, two, one, action.
Antonio, but it's pointing at me.
No, you're supposed to like look at me.
No, but